Assalamualaikum everyone. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes actually because it's 11:03. We'll start at 11:05. Okay, so just 2 more minutes and then we're going to start.
Assalamualaikum everybody. We're just waiting for Sister Taj to join in again. She logged out. So inshallah we'll be starting in a few minutes.
All right, inshallah, we'll be starting right now. I'm just trying to, I'm waiting for Sister Rush to give me control of the screen. Oh, I can do it. Perfect. Okay, just give me 1 second, guys. So inshallah today, just like last week, I'm going to focus on a surah today. So we're going to do Surah Al-Falaq, and then I'm going to start reading to you guys a story. So today we're going to start with the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And so that's how we're going to do it today. Let me just quickly share the screen with you guys. Okay, so I'm going to start here. I hope you can all see this. All right, so we're going to talk about Surah Al-Falaq today. Last week we did Surah An-Nas. And so once again, I'm going to read the verses and I'm going to talk a little bit about what the verse means. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about what the whole surah is talking about, right? So first verse. So when we start, we always say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now, Surah Al-Falaq means the daybreak. Right, so the first one, Surah An-Nas, or the last surah, was mankind. Right, now this one is referring to daybreak, and it's very important to understand what this daybreak means. So the first verse is Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, and the translation is, say, I seek refuge with the Rabb of daybreak. Now, it's a very simple verse, but there's a lot of information in there that we need to kind of take out of it. First thing we need to think about, well, what is daybreak? You know, what is it referring to? And why are we seeking refuge with Allah with daybreak from what? What is it that we're seeking refuge from, right? So Allah is the Rabb of daybreak, and in Surah An-Nas we learned that Rabb means Allah as well, right? It's another word for Allah, just like we have all these different words for Allah. All the 99 names of Allah, there's another we call Allah Rabb. Now, typically when daybreak comes, and I want you guys to think about this, right? What daybreak is, it's when that sun is coming out, you see the rays come out, you know, from far away, you'll see the little rays of light coming out. The minute that's happening, nightfall is being left behind and day is starting, right? So we're leaving kind of all the darkness of the bad activities behind. Now, it's not to say that nighttime is when all the bad things happen, right? Nighttime is when you sleep. Nighttime is when actually all of your cells are regenerating. So all your old cells, you know, they're dying out, but then your new cells are generating at night. Typically kids at this time, you guys notice you guys are growing. When you wake up in the morning, you seem to be an inch taller, right? Or a centimeter taller. And that's what's happening at nighttime, right? All your cells are producing, and this is what's happening. So it's good things are happening at nighttime. But at the same time, when daybreak comes, it's saying that, you know, daybreak tends to bring in kind of a new promise of, you know, and we're trying to leave things behind. Now, it's almost like a metaphor, right? It's not, the verse is not really saying with sunshine, you know, we leave all the darkness behind. It's more like when you see that ray of hope, when you see, you know, Allah, when you seek refuge with Allah, you leave all the evil things behind, and evil is darkness, right? So the darkness is being left behind and is being kind of referred to as nighttime, but it's not really nighttime. Same thing with daybreak. It's not really talking about the minute the sun shines, everything bad is gone. No, bad things happen in the day too, but it's all about internal us with people, right? Our daybreak, my daybreak, as in that ray of sunshine for me, right? The minute I seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm leaving my darkness behind. Any dark thoughts, any evil thoughts, I'm leaving those behind the minute I hold on to that ray of hope or that ray of light, right? And it's a deep thinking thing here with that just one verse, right? Then you go to verse 2, which is min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of what he has created. And this is important too. Allah created everything around us. Everything we see, everything we touch, everything we breathe in, everything Allah created around us. Many of these things are good, right? A lot of these things are good, but then some things are bad. Okay, so they're both of them Allah has put on earth for to test us almost, right? That's what it's for. The bad things are there as well, and they're all created by Allah too, right? It's not that only the good things were created by Allah. Everything was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some things were put on earth to test us, some things were put on earth to just, give us bounty, but they can turn into tests too sometimes. Now, sometimes even too much of a good thing can be a bad thing too, right? And I want you guys to think about this. What is it? What is usually good for us, but then it can also become bad, right? So take a few seconds to think to yourself what something you may do that's really, really good for you, but then become really, really bad when you do too much of it. Okay. So think of it for a few seconds, and then I'll share some of them with you too. Okay. Now, what I'm thinking of is food, right? Sometimes food is really good for you, right? You can sit there and you can eat food all day long if you want to. But what happens is when you eat too much food, right? You sit there and you go, oh, my tummy's hurting. I ate too much. I don't feel so good, right? That's taking something really, really good and turning into something really, really bad, right? Moderation. So something good can become something really bad if we don't do it in moderation. Okay. Now, what we as humans we try to then seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the evil or the shar that is all around us, right? So from all the bad things around us. Okay. Now verse 3 is وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. Okay, and from the evil of the dark night when it comes. Now, once again, dark night does not mean it's a bad thing. It's a metaphor. It's just kind of like a metaphor of when the bad things are happening, right? It's telling us the evilness of those things is what we are trying to seek protection from. Okay, now we seek protection from the darkness, so from the ghashiq, of anything bad. So these bad things, right? They can be difficulties that we're facing. They can be ignorance. There's a lot of ignorance everywhere now around nowadays because people just don't want to learn stuff, right? And bad influences, right? So bad influences around us can also be that darkness that we're seeking protection from. And this is sometimes your parents, once again, like I said last week, a lot of times your parents would say, make sure you have good friends, right? People around you are good. Because if you have bad influence around you, they can peer pressure you into doing things you don't want to do, right? But if you have good friends around you, a good friend will never ever force you to do anything that you don't want to do. A good friend will ask you to do something, and if you don't like it, they're okay with that, right? So you want to surround yourself with the good influence, not the bad influence. The bad influence takes you further into darkness. The good influence is that daybreak, right? It's taking you out of the darkness and it's pulling you out into the daybreak. And the darkness, it can make it difficult for us sometimes to see that right path or the straight path in Surah Fatiha, right? The straight path that we're trying to get on. It's hard for us to get on there if it's dark around us. And by dark, it means all the bad things around us. So if you're always seeing bad things, if you're always doing bad things, if you're always thinking bad things, then it's going to be hard for you to do something good, right? But it's not impossible. Allah makes it possible for you, but it's hard to do it if you're always completely surrounded by that darkness of the evil thoughts or the evil things that you're doing, right? So you want to once again hold on to that daybreak and have it follow through. So I thought of this and I thought maybe, you know what, this is how I thought of it when I read it. The surah is almost like a flashlight for me, right? It's like that little torch. So even in the darkness, if you hold onto your torch and you have your torch with you, or you have a lantern with you, right, with a little bit of a candle inside, or if you have a candle with you that's burning, right? Those are your little lights of hope. So if you have your flashlight with you that I thought of, I was like, okay, for me it's a flashlight. If I recite this surah, it's like a flashlight for me. I am asking Allah for help. And this surah is like a dua, right? It's a dua that you can make and Allah will make everything easy for you. So it's not like you're holding a physical flashlight and walking around with it, right? And you're like, see darkness, you're going to flash your light at it. That's not what we're doing. The surah is your flashlight. So whenever you feel, we're thinking dark thoughts, or if you're having bad, like, you're feeling like there's too much darkness around you, for instance, right? You can just recite the surah and Allah will help you. Allah will help you get out. Allah will pull you towards the daybreak. Okay. Now, verse 4. This is very important as well. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّثَّاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And from the evil of those who blow on knots. So they practice secret arts. Now, in today's world, typically in our daily life right now, you wouldn't experience something like this, but it does happen. It's in the verse, and it does exist. So before Islam came around, Islam has always been around, but Islam itself, as in when Prophet Muhammad SAW brought it, some people practice witchcraft and black magic, right? So they would do these evil spells and things like that. And then one of the things that they would do is they would take rope, tie it up into knots, and then blow on it. And they thought that, thinking like if they blew on, like took someone's name and blew on the knot, bad things would happen to that person. And at the same time, the people who believed in those things also thought that, okay, if someone did this to me, bad things will happen to me too, right? So the concept of black magic has always been there. It's still there. It does exist in today's life as well, right? You can take anything and you can, people do practice it. It's not good. It's not a good thing. And that's, once again, we're saying we seek protection with Allah from people who practice that, right? So this surah protects you from all of those things. Now, last verse is وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ. Now, and from the evil of the envious one when he envies. And this is really, really crucial here. Sometimes we have this thing, right? We see somebody with something and we get jealous of them, that they have it, right? You go, oh, I wish I had that too. That right there, that's you envying them, right? And when you start envying people because of something they have that you don't have, you have those dark thoughts, bad thoughts in your head, and you might do something unkind or be unkind towards them. You might become mean to them, right? It happens a lot sometimes with siblings too, right? Because somebody got something and you wanted it, and it's like, I want that, and you bought it for her and you didn't buy it for me, and those things happen, right? So instead of being happy for them, sometimes you get jealous, and it's a totally natural feeling. It's normal to feel jealous. The whole thing is you want to try to protect yourself from doing that, right? So you want to kind of, even if for that speck you go, oh, I wish I had that, but then you say, you know what? No, it's okay, right? You can be happy for them. You can ask them to borrow it. Now, if you have a friend who, let's say, had something like that, you also want to be happy for them, right? You don't want to be angry with them or be mean to them or be unkind to them just because they have something that you don't have. Also, an envious person may also make our lives difficult, right? So if you have something, somebody could envy that you have something that they don't have. They can make it difficult for you because they can be mean to you. They can be unkind to you, right? So you want to make sure that when you recite the surah, you are taking away those envious thoughts and you're throwing them out the window, right? Because you want to be happy for people. You don't want to be jealous or be envy of things that they have or you want from them. Because sometimes when you envy things too much, and this happens, right? That's how people steal. That's why people steal, because they envy something that other people have and they want that thing too. So they just steal it and then they have it, but they stole it, right? And that's wrong. So it's because they envied something someone had and they wanted it themselves. That's why they took this next really drastic dark step, and it's taking them further into darkness, right? It's not bringing them out to daybreak. It's taking them further out into darkness. You don't want that. Okay. So, and that's how this surah ends, just by telling us make sure you protect yourself from the envious one when they envy. Okay, and this can be both ways, right? Both these things can happen. You yourself can be in that dark place trying to get out. You yourself could be protecting yourself from somebody from, the person envying from coming towards you, or just, making sure you're protecting yourself from them. So there's two things that happen here. All right, now, and this is pretty much a surah. Now, what you can learn from the surah yourself, guys, is this. And this is very important as well. I keep saying things are important because they are. We live in a society right? With good people and bad people. There's good people, bad people everywhere, right? Our own activities can create good or bad results. So it's not just, and I always want you to think to yourself, don't always blame others around you, right? Don't always say, well, they're bad, I'm good. Okay, sometimes you can do bad things too. So if something's happening, maybe it's you. So you need to look at yourself and say, did I do something to create this whatever happened here, right? What I did it may make a good result or a bad result? And then in the surah, we are seeking refuge from with Allah from a few things are happening here, right? Where we're seeking refuge from Allah for um, from the evil or the shar that's already taking place in the darkness, so things that have already happened. So we're trying to say, Allah, protect us from those things, right? Help us get out of those evil thoughts out of our minds, out of our hearts, and we're seeking refuge from Allah of things that might happen in the future, right? So we're kind of doing we're playing both ends here. We're doing the protect us from what's already happened. Help me come out of that if I'm in a dark place. At the same time, for those who are maybe already in the daybreak, they're happy, they're good, they need to be where they need to be. They're asking Allah for protection from that darkness, from the evil. Okay. The surah is a beautiful dua. It's a great dua. You can recite it every single day, and it'll help you make situations easy when you are facing difficulties. So whenever you're facing anything in a situation where you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, make this dua, right? So recite the surah, and Allah will help you. Allah will take you out of it, of whatever situation you're in. Okay. Now, this worksheet, I actually don't have it on the website yet. I will be putting it on today, inshallah. It's got some fun fill in the blanks after that you guys can try. It's kind of like a fill in the blanks to see which were verses. And of course, I like to do the cut and paste activities. So you can cut it out and you can stick on to see whether you remember which order the verses are in. I will be trying to add some more today on here, and then this way you guys have a few more activities to keep you guys busy with this surah here. Okay, so once again, it's on my website called scribblesandblocks.com. I will share it on chat once I'm done here. Now what we're going to do is move on. I will introduce you guys today to the story of Musa alayhi salam. It is a very, very long story, guys, so you're going to have to sit and enjoy. I would say cuddle up almost. Okay, now I'm just going to stop sharing this so you guys can see properly. Okay, now Prophet Musa alayhi salam came from a noble family of prophets. His great-grandfather was Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, and his grandfather was Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. So we read about them. So Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was his grandfather. So his son's son or his daughter's son, one of those, right? Like other prophets throughout history, he was sent to the Bani Israel, which means the children of Israel. The children of Israel, also known as Israelites, were descendants of Prophet Ishaq and the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Israel means servant of Allah. And this was the name that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. Okay, so Israelites comes from a title that Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam was given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so just so you guys, I'm not sure if you guys remember from a few weeks ago when I did the story of Prophet Ismail alayhi salam. So Muslims come from the line of Prophet Ismail alayhi salam, and then Israelites or Jewish people, Judaism comes down from the line of Prophet Ishaq alayhi salam. Okay. Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam had 12 sons, one of which was Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Prophet Yusuf and his brother settled in the land of Egypt, and their children were called the children of Israel. After Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam died, the children of Israel were made into slaves by the Egyptian kings. Oh, where did it go? An Egyptian king was called a pharaoh or Pharaoh. The Egyptian pharaohs did not like the Bani Israel because they were the descendants of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and were regarded as an inferior race. The priests and wise men of Egypt had told the pharaohs that many years ago Allah had promised Ibrahim alayhi salam to make some of his children kings and prophets. The kings of Egypt wanted to stop this from happening. They thought and thought, and finally they came up with a plan. They decided to kill all the baby boys born to Israelite parents. This way, no Israelite boy would grow up to fight the kings. The Pharaoh sent messengers throughout the land to find all the Israelite women about to have babies. The Pharaoh's men would then wait to see whether a son or daughter was born. If it was a son, he was taken away and killed. Now, just on a side note, this is something that you relate to in Judaism. It's called Passover when they celebrate when they have a day called Passover. It's referring to this. It is a day that you would pass over. So it was if they marked it a door with X, that meant you had to pass over that door because the boy wasn't born. I think it was something like that. I'll actually find out more about that for you guys, because it's that's why they do that. But I'll find out more details about that and share it with you guys next class of which way it was. Um, if it was, yeah, sorry, he was taken and killed. This practice went on for several years. Each year, all the newborn baby boys were taken from their mothers and killed. Soon, however, the pharaohs realized that if they killed all the baby boys, there would be no more slaves left. They did not like this idea, so they decided to only kill baby boys every other year. Even though the children of Israel had been Muslims a long time ago, many of them had forgotten the teachings of their prophets. They forgot to worship only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many of them began to worship the cow and other gods of the pharaohs. Finally, Allah decided to send a prophet to save the Bani Israel from the Fir'aun and to show them the straight path of Islam. He chose Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Now, think what year it was, the year he was born. Was it the year of Passover, like when they would pass over, or was it the year when they were supposed to be killed? At the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam's birth, the most evil Pharaoh ever was ruling Egypt. His wickedness was known throughout the land. Every other year, he would kill the baby boys born to Israelite families. He was afraid that Allah's promise to Prophet Ibrahim would come true during his lifetime, and that he would be thrown out of his own kingdom. Baby Musa is saved. Musa alayhi salam was born in a year in which baby boys were being killed. His mother was terrified that the Pharaoh's men would take her baby away and kill him. Although she was able to hide him for a while, she knew that it was only a matter of time before Pharaoh's soldiers found him. Every night for 3 months, she prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save her baby. Allah had a special plan for the blessed infant, and he was going to make sure that he was safe. One night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told her to put Musa alayhi salam into a basket and place the basket in the Nile River. Allah promised to protect the baby and return him to her soon. Musa's mother was comforted by Allah's promise, so she did as she was told. The next day, she wrapped her lovely son in a blanket and held him close, kissing him lovingly before laying him tenderly in the basket. She quietly made her way to the shores of the Nile River and placed the basket into it. Now think about a mother doing that, right? She's trying to save her child, and the only thing she can think of is putting him in a basket and just basically putting him in the river and hoping he will end up where she wants him to end up because she trusts Allah. She quietly made her way to the shores of the Nile River and placed the basket into it. The flowing waters delicately pulled the basket into the current, where it floated gently down the Nile. Musa's mother prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep him safe. Then she instructed her daughter to follow the basket to see what happened. Musa's sister carefully made her way through the tall grass and brushed on the banks of the river, moving swiftly to keep the basket in sight. Suddenly, she came to a stop and held her breath as she watched the basket float straight into the Pharaoh's garden. She was powerless to do anything. So they're trying to make this basket go away from the Pharaoh, and the basket actually lands up in the Pharaoh's garden. Okay, so it's kind of almost leading him to his death if you don't know what the story is, right? It's like, okay, he's actually ended up where he's not supposed to. She was powerless to do anything. Her mother had placed Musa alayhi salam in the water to protect him from the Pharaoh, and he ended up right at the Pharaoh's doorstep. What was going to happen? Some of Pharaoh's servants were bathing in the river when one of them spied the basket. They quickly made their way towards it and pulled it out of the water. They took it directly to the Pharaoh's wife, Queen Asiya. As everyone crowded around her, she opened the lid of the basket. What she saw made her gasp in disbelief. Inside was a tiny baby looking back at her in wonder. When Queen Asiya looked into the baby's deep eyes, she could not help but hold the child close to her. He was the most beautiful baby she had ever seen. Pharaoh's guards heard the commotion and saw all the people gather around the queen. When they saw the baby, they rushed to take him from the Queen Asiya. Sensing that it was an Israelite child, they wanted to kill it, but she stopped them. Okay, so Queen Asiya was actually a very gentle person. She was very loving. She was a complete opposite of the king, of the pharaoh. So she wanted to keep this child. One little boy is not going to increase the power of the Beni Israel. She scolded them. As she held baby Musa alayhi salam and looked down into his tiny face, her heart melted. She rushed to show her husband the baby. Queen Asiya knew that her husband did not like baby boys, but she thought that if he saw how cute this one was, he would change his mind. Maybe we can raise him as our own son, she said to her husband as he looked at the quiet infant. Pharaoh was not very happy about letting the Israelite child live, but when he saw how much his wife liked the baby, he decided to let her keep him. What harm could one more Israelite child cause? Well, we'll find out how much. Queen Asiya was so happy that she embraced her husband and hurried away with the baby in her arms. Meanwhile, Musa's sister was hiding and watching from a distance. She breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that the queen had not let the guards kill her little brother. She continued to watch curiously as the queen handed Musa alayhi salam to a woman. She then saw that the woman attempted to feed the infant. Musa began to cry, letting out a piercing wail. It was clear that the baby was hungry, but for some reason he would not take this woman's milk. Queen Asiya became nervous. She did not have any children of her own, and she did not know what to do. She wanted so desperately for the child to stop his crying. She immediately sent some for her other servants to marketplace to see if they could find another woman who could feed Musa alayhi salam. Musa's sister quietly followed them to the marketplace. When they were far away from Pharaoh's palace, she stepped forward and said, "Shall I take you to the house of a woman who will feed him? She will take care of him for you. Her family will be very kind to him." The servants quickly agreed because they could see that the queen was getting desperate. They told Musa's sister to bring the woman to the palace. She rushed home with a big smile across her face to tell her mother the good news. When Musa's mother heard the story, she hurried to the palace and she swept baby Musa into her arms. He immediately stopped crying and started to drink her milk. Queen Asiya truly loved the baby and she was overjoyed to see him drinking the milk of the strange woman. The queen begged Musa's mother to stay at the palace and nurse the baby. However, Musa's mother refused the queen's offer because she had other children at home that needed her. Finally, the two agreed that the baby would go back with his mother. It was also agreed that he would be brought to the palace whenever the queen wanted to see him. Thus, Allah's promise to Musa's mother was fulfilled and he was safely returned to her. Okay, I'm going to end it here for today, and then we're going to go to the next part of this. So the baby part's kind of done. Now, before we wrap it up quickly, if you have any questions, do ask me now. If you don't, then we can close for today.
I would just like you to write the name of the website so that
Oh, yeah.
people can go and upload that. And thank you again so much. It was another long story today.
I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yes, we did.
All right. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Welcome.